Now, as we do so many weeks here at the Daily Dose, we need to get to our Daily Dose top 5. So today on the Dose, we have been talking about blue blood programs. Programs from major conferences that we are just used to see make the NCAA tournament every single year. I mean, you figure that the University of North Carolina has the most number 1 seeds in tournament history, and yet this year, they're in some serious trouble as to whether they'll even make it to the dance. Well, today, we're not talking about those great programs in our Daily Dose Top 5. No, we are talking about the other end of the spectrum, the teams that don't make the tournament, like in forever. Today, our Daily Dose Top 5 is counting down the top 5 longest current NCAA tournament droughts that are out there. Which teams have not made the field in the longest amount of time? And we're also going to talk a little about, do they have a shot of breaking that drought this year? Okay, so we start off at number 5, where we go clear back to the year 1969. Yes, I'm talking about the same year that we landed on the moon. This is the year that Tom Little and Lou West and Sam Pierce led the Seattle Redhawks to the NCAA tournament. The Redhawks went 20-8 that year as an independent program, and they faced Weber State, who actually shot the lights out in the first round, and they beat Seattle 75-73. Now, back in 1969, the UCLA Bruins would beat Purdue in the title game that year. You might remember UCLA had a guy by the name of Lou Alcindor who later would change his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But since 1969, the University of Seattle has gone 54 seasons without making the tournament again. Now, to be fair, 29 of those seasons were not at the D1 level, but they are back at the D1 level now. Now, believe it or not, the Redhawks, they have a chance of making the tournament this year. Seattle now plays in the WAC, and the WAC is actually maybe better than people think. They have Utah Valley. I'm telling you right now, Utah Valley is pretty tough this year. They have Stephen F. Austin. We've seen them make some noise in the tournament over the last few seasons. And they have Sam Houston. Now, I would say Seattle probably needs to show very strong in the WAC tournament. But if they did, maybe, just maybe, Seattle could break that drought this year. But coming in at number 5, we have the Seattle Redhawks, who have a 54-year drought on making the NCAA tournament. We move on to number 4, and we go to a program, that basically has no shot whatsoever this year because the Bowling Green Falcons are currently 11th out of the 12 teams in the Mid-American Conference. But I mean, honestly, Bowling Green's probably used to it because the Falcons, they haven't made the NCAA tournament since 1968. Again, back in 68, UCLA also won the tournament with Alcindor, and of course with legendary head coach John Wooden, but Bowling Green actually made the dance. They were coached by a guy you've probably heard of. The great Bill Fitch coached Bowling Green that year. The Falcons had big man Walt Piakowski, who averaged 24 points and 7 rebounds per game, but Bowling Green was knocked out by Marquette in a very, very tight game. Of course, Piakowski would go on to the NBA, play a little bit there, but you might actually remember his son, Eric Piakowski. He played for the Clippers for a number of years, and of course we know Bill Fitch would go on to lead the Boston Celtics to an NBA title. But currently, Bowling Green has a 55-year streak going where they have not made the tournament, and that ties them, actually, with our next team. We're going to put Bowling Green at number 4, and we're going to put our next team at number 3. Bowling Green comes in today at number 4. So next up at number 3, we go back once again to the year 1968. Think about 1968, how long ago that actually was. Woodstock had not yet taken place. The Vietnam War was rolling. And Super Bowl II had just been played back in January. But also taking place in 1968, in addition to Bowling Green making the 23-team tournament at the time, was the Columbia Lions making the tournament. The Lions had future NBA star Jim McMillan on their roster. McMillan averaged 22 and 10 for the season. But get this, Columbia didn't just make the tournament. First, they beat LaSalle by almost 20. Then they beat Davidson in overtime by 2 before they finally bowed out to St. Bonaventure in the regional semifinal. I mean, that's a pretty good run for a team that hasn't been back since, but Columbia went pretty deep in the tournament since then. Yes, it has been 55 years, and Columbia really hasn't been all that close. This season, they are sitting dead last in the Ivy League. So yeah, it's pretty likely that Columbia's streak is going to continue pretty easily. The Columbia Lions come in today at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we arrive at a team that again has a very slim chance to break their streak this year. If they do, it's going to take quite a doing because it's going to be very, very tough. They have a lot of history to break if they're going to do it, because it has been 60 years since the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles made it to the NCAA Tournament. We go clear back to the year 1963. 63. You know, back when John F. Kennedy was assassinated? Yeah, that same year, the Loyola Chicago Ramblers won the NCAA Tournament over the Cincinnati Bearcats. Here's the unfortunate part for Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech made some history in the tournament that year. And I'll be honest, it wasn't the good kind. In the opening round, Tennessee Tech faced eventual champion Loyola Chicago. And in that opening game, they were beaten by Loyola Chicago 111-42. That is a record 69-point difference. Yeah, I said 69. That still stands to this day. No one's ever lost by 69 or more, even now. Now, these days, Tennessee Tech plays in the Ohio Valley, where they currently sit in second place behind top team Morehead State. Here's the bad news. Tech's overall record, it's right around 500. So they might be in second place. They probably don't have much of a chance to get in, though. I don't expect the streak to be broken, but hey, go win your league tournament. Break that 60-year drought. Tennessee Tech comes in today on our list at number 2. So we reach the number 1 team that has the longest current drought in making the NCAA tournament. And again, we go back to the Ivy League, where we are reminded that hippies, even rich hippies sometimes, are rarely great at playing sports. Sorry to break that. Because for our number 1 entry, we go back to the year 1959. No, seriously, 1959. The Barbie doll was debuting in the United States. Dwight D. Eisenhower was in office, and the Super Bowl did not yet exist, and the Dartmouth Big Green actually made the NCAA tournament. Now, the Cal Berkeley Bears, behind coaching great Pete Newell, they scraped past West Virginia and Jerry West 71-70 in what they say was a great game, but Dartmouth had a double-double monster in a forward by the name of Rudy LaRusso. Sounds like a guy straight out of, Rudy, right? He averaged 19 points and 16 rebounds per game. The Big Green went 22-6, and in the first round of the tournament, they would face Jerry West and those West Virginia Mountaineers. And of course, West went for 25 points, and they sent Dartmouth home for the year. They haven't been back since. The Dartmouth Big Green currently hold the longest drought in the country for last making the big dance 64 years ago. And their current season is not making a strong case to break that drought anytime soon. Dartmouth sits in 6th place out of the 8 teams in the Ivy League. And we all know that league, they're just going to send one team to the tournament. So you'd have to win your conference tournament. Doesn't look like that is going to happen this year. I have a lot of doubts. Here's the crazy part. The longest drought ever for making the tournament was 66 seasons held by Harvard from 1946 to 2012. Don't look now, but at their current rate, Dartmouth is closing in on that record real fast. They are at 64, and it doesn't look like that is changing anytime soon. Okay, YouTube, make sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast this week, because this week on the podcast, we have a number of news stories to cover. But then we are actually looking at a few off-season dates in the NFL, and we are talking some March Madness. We're starting to get you ready for that tournament. We are talking about some big name blue blood programs that are really going to have to rally to even make the tournament this year. So be sure you go over and check out the rest of the podcast. I will leave a link here in the comments on YouTube for you. Hope y'all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week.